We are exploring an absolute gender bender of a wine on the HanTV Solo Wine channel today, and that wine is the Crux Nova Mataro made by Noble Hill Estate. Noble Hill is a supremely underrated producer of high quality, and they are located on the Paarl side of the Simonsberg mountain. Their red blends are particularly brilliant, both their Bordeaux and their Rhone style blend. But by far the most fascinating wine in their entire lineup is this Crux Nova Mataro. Incidentally, if you like the idea of gender bending wines, or perhaps you just want to stay up to speed with wine science, geeky wine info, unusual cultivars, winemaking trends, then subscribe to the HanTV Solo YouTube channel, where we have almost 400 videos just like this one, and give us a like as it helps other people find our content. Now, the reason behind the bizarre color of this particular wine lies in how it was made. This wine was produced via carbonic maceration, which is to say that whole clusters of grapes were placed very gently into a tank full of carbon dioxide. And the winemaker had to make very sure that none of the grapes got burst or cut or any of the juice ran out, for reasons that I can explain in other videos at another time. Then, in this environment, the grapes actually absorb a whole bunch of that CO2 gas, and this triggers anaerobic fermentation, where alcohol is made even though no yeast is present. In fact, inside the grape, there is a chemical interaction involving a malic enzyme, malic acid, and sugar. And from that process, alcohol is produced. Now, if you want to go deep into the chemical process and all the fascinating volatile aromatics that particular type of fermentation triggers, I've made a whole bunch of videos about it, and I will leave links to those at the end. The Crux Nova Mataro is kind of like Noel Fielding from the Mighty Boosh, in that it's the great confuser. I mean, you look at it and go, what on earth is this, man? Is it a red wine? Is it a rosé? Do I serve it at room temperature? Do I chill it? The short answer is you do chill it. But once you get over the shock of the color of this wine, your emotional state may shift from bewilderment through to downright confusion when you find yourself asking, but man, what on earth is a Mataro? Luckily for you, it's not quite as confusing as it sounds, as Mataro is really just simply a synonym for Mourvèdre, which is actually just a synonym for Monastrell. But despite the fact that Monastrell is definitely a Spanish cultivar, it kind of feels far more French to us South Africans because we almost exclusively talk about Mourvèdre. Now, Mourvèdre is grown for the most part in the south of France and is often blended with cultivars like Grenache or Syrah or Cinsault. In fact, in the appellation of Bandol, whether it is to make red wine or rosé wines, Mourvèdre has to be at least 50% of the wine and can make up as much as 95% of the blend. Now, in Bandol, it's blended with Grenache mostly, and sometimes Cinsault. But then outside Bandol, some of its other blending partners are Carignan and also Syrah. In fact, it is Syrah, Grenache, and Mourvèdre that make up the rather ubiquitous SMG blending style. Now, this originated in the Languedoc and Southern Rhone, a lot in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, but it's really spread around the New World simply as SMG, which is Syrah, Mourvèdre, Grenache. Although it's to be noted that in Australia, it's Syrah, Mataro, Grenache. I mentioned earlier that we've made videos that list a whole string of bizarre volatile aromatics that are produced via carbonic maceration. So rather than doing that again, I'll just let the wine speak for itself. When we give this guy a sniff, we get kind of what I think is classic of a carbonic maceration wine, which is a note of cherry soda. And in my mind, I'm really mixing soda stream, soda water, carbon dioxide smell with cherry candy. But there's also a deeper note of red licorice and slightly more playful sort of strawberry taffy element. Perhaps what I'm calling red licorice is a kind of fennel note, but the dominant experience is one of light, vibrant candy and red fruit. Now, when we give it a sip, well, it really just is a glorious celebration of all things bright and juicy. There is this kaleidoscope of cherry candy and raspberry sherbet, lovely tart citrus fruit. And while this looks like a wine that could just be tossed back next to the pool, and it really could, there's something more substantial about it. Perhaps it's the way in which each one of those fruit notes are very well defined. You can taste each fruit element, and those are woven together into this quite impressive tapestry of joy and mirth, really. So while you could probably throw this back in a second. Try and restrain yourself and drink it a little more slowly and allow yourself to experience the different elements of fruit as they unfold on your palate, because it's far more complex than it looks. It's important to say that this wine should be served chilled. So if you opened it at room temperature and have perhaps been finding it a little insubstantial, then put it in the freezer for 20 minutes before you have any more. And when you come back, I'm sure you'll see that that balance between the vibrant, juicy acidity and the sweetness of the berry fruit is a lot more to your liking. Okay, so that's all we have time for today. But as promised, I've left links to 2 videos, one of which goes into all the chemical details about how carbonic maceration works and the kind of mechanisms and systems required in order to produce it. And the other one explores some really rather pioneering producers from the region of Rioja in Spain who are in fact using carbonic maceration to make Tempranillo wines. Both videos will give you a much broader understanding of this really rather fascinating winemaking technique.